What is up, Elite brothers and sisters? Justin here with Elite Self to talk to you about one of the most interesting books that I have ever read, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Super excited to share this stuff with you guys. Now, I know I promised that I was going to put together a video about this book, but I have a confession to make. I just can't do that. It's too much stuff, it's too good. I would be doing it a disservice if I tried to fit it all into one video. And I've actually done a little bit of thinking, and I've rearranged this to put it more into a format that I think is the way that Dr. Maltz intended it to be from the beginning. So one of the things that I do want to encourage you to check out, read this book. Don't just watch the videos, read the book. One of the coolest things about this book is how personal of an experience it is to go through. A lot of the concepts in this book and things he goes over, like at the end of each chapter, he asks questions like, how do these principles have they been demonstrated in your own life? And he even, at the end of each chapter, has 5 blank bullet points. That's for you to write whatever you feel like stuck out the most to you about that chapter. Now, so I can only offer my own interpretation or my own commentary, but there may be some stuff that he went over that was completely, I was oblivious to, that's super important to you. And so if you don't read the book for yourself, you can't have that same personal experience. So I definitely encourage you guys, pick up your own copy, go through the book, and let me know what your thoughts on it are, especially if they're different than mine, because I would love to learn from you as well. So one thing that I did mention just a second ago is how the way that I'm going to format this, I think, is more similar to the way that Dr. Maltz intended it from the beginning, in that rather than trying to fit this all in one video, I'm going to put together a 3-week, 21-day video series, which he actually mentioned something similar at the beginning of the book. One of the things that he says is, look, please reserve all your judgments until after 21 days of practicing the principles in this book. He says, if you still, after 21 days, if you still hate it and you think it's garbage, throw it out, torch it on social media, tell everybody that you think that Dr. Maltz is terrible, but please give it 21 days before you decide to do something like that. And so what I'm going to do is over the next 3 weeks, I'll put together probably between 2 and 3 videos a week going over this book section by section, and hopefully by the end of it, you've experienced the same kind of growth that I have, even better if you experience more or different growth than what I have, because I've learned a lot. I feel like I've definitely changed, and I'm excited for you guys to experience that as well. So what is Psycho-Cybernetics? Well, essentially it's about how to use your brain in the most effective way to accomplish the results that you're looking to accomplish in life. But the very fundamental, like the foundation of all of that, is self-image. Now, self-image is pretty self-explanatory. It's just, how do you see yourself? What's your perception of yourself look like? And the book starts with talking about how to generate a more positive self-image in any situation. And it goes through a very simple exercise that's super easy to do. So what I want you guys to do is take a moment to relive a successful memory. Right? Whether it can be as simple as tying your shoe for the first time, or catching a pop fly when you were playing baseball as a kid, or maybe you turned in a paper that got a good grade, or you asked somebody out and it went well, or whatever it is. Whatever memory, if you have a memory that makes you feel proud and accomplished and excited, I want you to recall that in as vivid detail as possible. And the more detailed, the better. Because the thing is that your brain can't actually tell the difference between what's happening right now physically and an imagination or an image or a memory or something like that, some kind of visualization. Your brain experiences both of those things the same way. So if you recall this memory vividly, then your brain is going to actually be reliving that moment right now, which can be a very, very useful tool moving forward. So the thing about this memory is that when you start to relive it, if you really pay attention, you'll start to feel something like an emotion, like pride or accomplishment or success, and your shoulders kind of come back a little bit, you kind of puff your chest out a little bit more. That feeling, take that with you moving forward. Don't just leave it. I want you to bring up that feeling, recall that memory, and then move forward with it. And that is a very easy way to positively influence your self-image any time of day. You can repeat it as many times throughout the day as you need to, in whatever situations you need to help remind yourself, hey, I'm that kind of person, right? Now, the thing about your self-image is that it's going to be constantly changing, and I think we've all experienced at some point where we went from being on top of the world or even just being a normal person to feeling ashamed and embarrassed or something like that. Somebody calls us out on something we did, and instantly we're like, oh, and we feel terrible, we feel small, and we kind of shrink, and we feel ashamed. So that moment, our self-image is exceptionally negatively affected by external circumstances. And the best way that we can prepare to make sure that we're ready moving forward is to prepare for that kind of situation where you kind of write this, and I can't remember who it was that wrote the idea of if, when, then statements. And essentially it's so if, when someone says something negative about me, it affects my self-image and I begin to feel small, then I'll recall this time when I, wrote this paper and it got great reviews, right? And so that's an easy way to kind of program, like, boom, when I start feeling negative, boom, recall something positive, and that readjusts, and I'm recalibrated and ready to move forward with that positive self-image. So it's important that you practice that first exercise that we talked about, just recalling your positive memory. If you haven't already practiced that, please pause the video, go practice that first. Again, that is the foundation upon which everything else happens. And once again, this isn't something that you can just know. It's not something that you can just read about. This is a personal experience. You have to do these things. You have to experience and apply these principles for it to make a difference in your own life. So rather than just listening to this, I encourage you, practice that. Practice preparing for a moment in which somebody is going to say something or something may happen that may negatively affect your self-image, and prepare to recall a positive memory about something you accomplished instead of focusing on that negativity or that failure or that perceived failure, right? To put it in the words of Roger Hamilton, I believe, he's the guy that wrote a book called Wink and Grow Rich, which I also highly recommend. He wrote, "To know and to not do is to not yet know," right? If you're listening but you're not applying, you don't get it, right? Apply, practice. So again, if you haven't already practiced that, drill, go ahead and do that and then move forward. And then the secondary drill is to prepare for when someone does say something or when something does happen that negatively affects your self-image, and prepare yourself to recalibrate and establish that you are a dominant force in society, you are somebody worth looking up to, and you are ready to move forward in a way that is successful, confident, humble, and generally good, right? So next, he does talk also about positive thinking, but it's probably a little bit different than the modern interpretation. So the modern interpretation of positive thinking, stuff I see a lot about on social media and things like that, is like, I'm gonna get the job, just reassure yourself that you're gonna get it, or reassure yourself that you're gonna win, or things like that, like, maybe, maybe not. That's not really within your control. That's something that's kind of up to things and forces outside of what you have access to. But what you can do is do exercises like reassuring yourself. Let's say you're on a sports team and you're going to the championships. Instead of wishing, hey, I'm going to win the championships, maybe thinking things like, we've put in the work. We've worked harder than any other team. We've been putting in and day out. We practiced our drills. I know I can make this shot. I know I can make that shot. These are the things. And so you start focusing on what is within your control and the positive attributes about you and the positive attributes about your team. And that builds that self-confidence, builds that self-image. And when you see yourself as being someone that's capable of winning that championship, that is when you start making changes in that arena. So it's not about wishing for something to happen to you. It's about reminding yourself that you're capable of impacting the situation in such a way that you receive the desired outcome that you're looking for. So contrary to what I feel like is a pretty popular interpretation of positive thinking, rather than thinking about what's outside of your control positively, let's go ahead and think about what's in your control and what's positive about you that you can use to affect the situation moving forward. Next thing is, he does, like I mentioned at the end, he has the 5 points that are just blank, and you write in what was important to you. And I just went over the points that I felt like were most important to me in chapter 1 and in the foreword. Now, there's also another point that he has at the end of each chapter where he asks the question, how have the principles in this chapter been demonstrated in your life? And so I wanted to go over with you guys the way that it's personally been demonstrated in my own life. Over the past year, I have seen a significant change in my quality as a leader, both in my quality as a leader and in a quality as an athlete, and I can attribute that largely to one of the nerdiest reasons one could see something like that happening, and that is that I am a huge fan of the Marvel movies. I love the MCU. Most of my training partners here at Ninja are also fans of the MCU, and after we saw Infinity War, we were all devastated. We were like, I can't believe that happened. And I think it was after a workout later on in one of the evenings when we all decided we were going to come together and we were each going to pick an Avenger that we felt like we wanted to emulate both as athletes and as people. And we wanted to move forward with working toward getting to, as close to that status as we possibly could as being, normal humans over the next year in preparation for Endgame. And so each of us selected our respective characters, and the one that I chose was Captain America. And there were lots of reasons why I chose Cap, but the big ones were he was an active leader, he was an incredible athlete, and he was absolutely somebody that was worth looking up to in almost every way. And one of the things you guys have to understand about me is that even I was already in a leadership position prior to this whole Avengers thing, and I am not naturally like leadership material. Like everything that I've learned has been practiced, and so I'm kind of a people pleaser. I like to make sure everybody's happy when they walk out of a situation and stuff like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it was one of those things where almost I would defer decisions to other people and things like that. It wasn't really I wasn't an active leader. I was kind of more of like a okay, well you think this, so okay, yeah, well let's move forward. And what I found is over the past year, I have become active in delegation and giving orders and things like that. I am a decision maker. Even if I have to make a decision with limited information just based on limited time, I'm able to make a decision based on that kind of situation as well. And this has affected me to such a degree that even outside of a professional environment, if I'm with a group of people and a decision needs to be made, typically they'll end up looking at me to do so. So it's been something where I've seen not only have I increased in my leadership skills as being like an active, authoritative, still compassionate and still willing to listen and help and help everybody have the best outcome possible, but also willing to say like, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. This is how we're going to move forward. This is the decision that's been made. This is how you're going to play your part in it, and things like that. And so it's been really cool to see that develop, as well as some of the breakthroughs I've had as an athlete over the past year have been phenomenal. Doing skills and tricks and movements, doing lifting more pull-ups, more push-ups than I ever thought that I'd be able to do as me. And so and all of that I feel like can be attributed to seeing this image of Captain America and associating that with my own personality, like pulling from him into how I see myself, was able to push me forward into being a better leader, a better businessman, a better husband, better in all my relationships, and even a better athlete. And so it's been really cool to see how such a small association can make such a huge difference in my self-image, which makes such a huge difference in the way that I move forward in life, and the way that I interact with my partners, my friends, my students, all of that kind of stuff. So anyway, nerdy as it is, that's how I've seen the principles from Chapter 1 and the forward taking on an active role and being demonstrated in my life. I would love to hear about your own experiences if you have read this book. If you haven't read this book, again, I really encourage you to pick up a copy. You can do it. It's on Audible, it's on Kindle, you can buy a physical copy like this one. Pick it up, and I would love it if you guys would actually follow through this video series with me as you go through the book. And if you guys, like, let's say you go through Chapter 1 and you watch this video and you go, oh man, well there's actually a couple different things that I found that I want to share with you, and so I want to learn that kind of stuff too. If you have different points that you feel like are really important, please drop them in the comments, make your own videos. I want to learn about what you guys learned from this book as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. I will see you next week for more Psycho-Cybernetics Elite Self-Talk. And until then, I hope you guys continue to be elite. See you next time.